Ahoy, hoy, friends, and welcome to the Salon. I am back home in my apartment, thankfully. Thank you for all of the well wishes for us in LA. Please keep us in your hearts and minds. We will have in the show notes places that you can donate for ongoing support for those impacted by the wildfires. It's been a rough almost 2 weeks, and it's rough. So we'll leave it there. We're going to have a fun salon tonight. We are talking about decisions in Trek, some that are controversial, some that are just a little head scratchy. They make you say, huh? Why did you wait? He did what? I imagine for this episode, we're like admirals reading captain's logs and being like, I'm sorry, Captain Picard left them addicted. Okay, well, send a no birth. Let's clean that up. I'll talk to him later. So speaking of making poor choices, let's bring in our panel, starting with my favorite Buckeye. Matt, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing so good. I don't know what a Buckeye even is. I have no idea. I've never heard that term before in my entire life.
Ohio.
Ohio.
She's joking. Don't eat them. Segue here. Joanne, how are you, darling?
I'm also a Buckeye, even though I live in the South, but I'm great.
Love it. And another flawless segue. My co-host, Trevor, how are we?
I have been bucked in the eye, so there we are.
Ooh. And I do believe that is our first of the evening.
Problematic gay alert.
I'll take it.
Yes. Now, y'all know the drill. Please like and subscribe. We are now in all of the podcast places. We'll be uploading our episodes every Friday that I remember to do it. And I am slowly putting older content onto the platform. So wherever you like to listen to a podcast, there's a billion of them, including the big three: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music, as well as an RSS feed that you can find on our website, salontrek.com. There is a slight cost associated, so if you wanted to join our Patreon and throw a couple of dollars to help defray the cost of the salon, that is certainly appreciated. This weekend, we are going to be doing our bonus content episode. We will be recording commentary for Matt's comfort episode, The Chase, and what a lovely pursuit he shall be. All right,
it's usually a pretty quick one.
You keep opening it up for me to be mean to you, and I'm not taking the bait.
She's a little, but she's not fast. She's not fast.
Oh, this is going to be delightful. We have with us half the crew. Get well, get home soon, enjoy whatever you're doing, and I forget the third thing. No, two people need to get well. One person needs to get home, and somebody's enjoying something else. Can I be more awkward in my segues tonight? I'm
You
going
could
to
try.
Yeah,
You could.
Yeah.
This is striving for perfection.
You could make other decisions that would be questionable.
I love that. But before I make a decision, before I do anything that's questionable, we simply must set an intention.
Indeed, we must. So, in honor of our conversation about difficult decisions, I've decided that I'm going to ask each of you a question that requires you to make a difficult decision. And unlike most of our intention setters that everyone gets to answer the same question, these questions have been crafted to call out, I don't know, we'll just say Trek passions of each of you. And Benji, since you are in the comments, I'm going to go ahead and ask your question as well. I know you're not feeling well, so you couldn't be on camera, but that doesn't recuse you from your questioning. But to kick things off, we'll start. I will start with Joanne, since she's over there next to me. Joanne, my love,
Yes.
you have to have a roommate for the next year. Okay, I'm so sorry to share that with you. But will you be rooming with Cassidy Yates Sisko or Jennifer Sisko?
You
Impossible to
bastard.
pick at it.
Oh, I guess Jennifer, because she's going to die. How about that?
Well played,
Oh.
ma'am. Well played. Mateo,
Mm. The
you
fact
get
that I already
to
got asked the question scares me of what's gonna. Yeah.
you get to do one of two things. You can either captain a sovereign class ship crewed by a bunch of straight women all named Karen, or you get to captain a ship that is crewed by a bunch of guys that are really into you, but it's Jaeger class.
Well, from our side conversation, we know that technically fraternization between officers is allowed. So that is tempting. However, there's something about giving me not only a sovereign class, but also putting me in command of a bunch of straight white Karens that have to follow what I say, that is just truly transcendent to me. Like, I can tap into that, so I'm taking the sovereign.
All right, fair enough.
Real quick, I do want to just highlight for folks who may not know. We all know the sovereign class, of course, but I do want
It's on
folks,
her thigh.
yeah, it's on my body too. I just want folks to imagine for a moment, you go through Starfleet Academy, you bust your ass for a decade or two, and they're like, congrats, Commander, you're going to be a captain. This is your ship. Can you imagine?
Oh, it somehow almost looks worse from the front too. Like, the side profile's bad, but like the whole thing's bad. And they literally
I
just
cannot imagine. I'd be like, thank you, Admiral. Wow, I don't know what to say.
truly, I am blessed. The fact that I just have to take, like, the fact that they literally they were so pressed for time and did not give a shit at the end of making that Frankenfleet that they just took the Maquis Raider and Voyager's hull from the Revel, like, model kit and just glued them together and said, that's a ship.
Love
There you
it.
go. Oh,
Speaking of oddly shaped ships, but I happen to love this one as well. But Benji, in the comments, go ahead and share your answer to we do know you love an Oberth class. Don't worry, we're not going to destroy the entire class. But are we redoing all of Star Trek The Next Generation, but the Enterprise D is an Oberth class? Or are we redoing all of Deep Space Nine and the Defiant is an Oberth class? So go ahead and pop your answer in the chat, and then we'll move on to our fearless leader, Stan. You have to choose between these two impossible choices. Either for an entire year, every hour of TV you spend, you also have to watch 2 TOS Season 3 episodes. Or for the next year, every email, tweet, or post that you write will contain at least 2 misspellings or grammatical errors, and you can't correct them.
Drag me. First of all, you're making me do math, and that's rude with the first option. And second, calling out my typos because there have been 2 in the recent past. One.
By recent past, it means like since I met you 3 years ago. So like that's how long you hold on to this shit. Like you are like obsessed.
No, it was last week. I forgot an L.
The first time in 2 years.
Huh. So I have to watch the original series or be okay with
every time you watch an hour of television, you have to watch 2 hours of TOS Season 3.
Oh, that's so much.
Mm-hmm. or 2 grammatical errors for every post.
I mean, whatever. You know what I meant. Who cares about typos? The link still works. Yeah, I'll go with the typos. No offense,
right.
my tosser
And
friends.
For those of you who think I'm evil and just are, just I'm up to no good and torturing my shipmates, fearless leader, you have prepared an impossible choice for me, your intention setter extraordinaire. Hit me.
Yes. Trevor, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you have died, and you have been deemed a medium person. And so the good place and the bad place are debating your medium place.
Okay.
So for the entertainment that you get to have in your eternal home, you only get to have the second half of 2-parters in the Star Trek franchise, and that's it. Which it's a slightly different. I'm giving you a little more agency than you've given the rest of us, because I'm a good person. I'm the good place committee.
That's yet to be determined, but carry on.
Which 2 or 3 second half of a 2-parter episode would you choose to be the only Star Trek entertainment you have for eternity in your medium place?
Fuck.
As a reminder for the audience, Trevor hates 2-part episodes.
Almost all of them. Best of both worlds. Scorpion. And I have to pick one more.
You can do one more.
Wasn't Menagerie a 2-parter?
Yes.
All right, I'll take it.
That's the Pike one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
All right, there you have it. Either that or Court Martial. I can't remember which one was 2-part, but where's Ken when you need him? Give me a tosser alert, please. I earned it.
On it.
Also,
you tosser.
I'm surprised there wasn't Year of Hell. Part 2, Year of Hell.
I don't like Year of Hell. Questions about decisions.
Oh, that's what I should have done, is said Year of Hell Part 2, or what's the holodeck Part 2?
Oh God,
the Herodian one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No.
War game.
Impossible choices, like our captains face every day. We should get into it. I am convening this board of the Admiralty to debate the decisions of some of our captains. I know each of our admirals around the table has a choice or two that have been made that we will be debating. Some will be fun, some will be controversial. Did anybody have one that they wanted to throw out as like a softball one? Otherwise, I could go with one of the controversial ones to start.
I mean, I still have my gripe that I have had for forever, and I know you have a thing for it.
Which series was it from? So I can pull up the visual.
Deep Space Nine.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Captain Sisko.
How did that man get put in charge of the entire fleet? I mean, basically put in charge of the entire fleet after he attempted genocide on a planet by using biological warfare. Like,
two reasons. The first one, big fleet energy. The second one, because he was right.
He was there is never a being right about using biologic. Okay, think of all the millions and billions of other species on that planet that would have been killed. It wasn't just those people. It was an entire ecosystem that could have harbored life that may have cured so many diseases, but now we'll never know.
So for the podcast audience, we need to remember moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
We are debating the episode For the Uniform, in which Captain Sisko responds to Michael Eddington poisoning a Cardassian colony. Yeah, a Cardassian colony with a gas that was only poisonous to Cardassians by himself poisoning a Maquis colony with a gas that was only poisonous to humans. And in Matt's headcanon, potentially the ecosystem as well. It's not technically said that it was going to fuck up anything other than human life. And the colonists of the two planets just do a little switcheroo.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, now I'm because that does put it. I thought it was just the entire.
No, in his log at the end, he says that the colonists from the two worlds are just taking up each other's previous space. And Jadzia says the gas is harmless to most people, but it's deadly to Cardassians.
Yeah,
So I think the presumption is it's just people being impacted. But you could be right. I mean,
it could still fuck up the ecosystem.
Yeah.
They can
Joanne?
always terraform that shit. He did fuck them. So he did the right thing.
We do have the ultimate Cisco defender here. So.
Joanne agrees.
Forever.
Or no matter what. It doesn't
No matter what.
He could have done so much worse. In fact, he's a saint.
He's killed lots of people. I support it all.
Mm-hmm.
He has.
I mean, the prophets didn't stop him, so they didn't see a problem with it.
The prophets killed some people for him. He is that badass. So yeah, fuck them colonists.
Yes.
I need that on a Salon t-shirt.
Yeah.
Fuck them colonists.
On it. T-shirt idea.
Coming to an STLV near you in August.
Fuck them colonists. All right. Any other thoughts on?
No, I just don't think he should have been promoted.
Cisco then proceeds with the same strategy the Maquis had been using. He prepares to launch biogenic weapons comprised of trilithium resin at a Maquis settlement. A reversal of Eddington's weapon, the resin bomb would poison the atmosphere with a toxin that is deadly to humans but harmless to Cardassians. Cisco broadcasts a message revealing his intentions, but Eddington dismisses it as a Federation bluff, yada, yada, yada. He does it.
Still, you're using
I'm going to say this in defense of both. Like, I argue that, like, it's fine because they did a little switcheroo. But from, like, a story perspective, I struggle with, like, why are there so many chemicals available that are only deadly to specific species? Like, that seems super weird.
And we also know the trilithium resin from, TNG's Starship Mine.
Yes.
Was,
I mean, we'll get there eventually, but Section 31.
Yeah. Having it in general.
All right. Final. Any additional thoughts on Captain Cisco?
I noticed that no one debated my first argument, which was big fleet energy.
Yeah, you can't argue that.
And just for clarification, by fleet I meant his dick.
It's undeniable.
Yeah.
I like big fleets and I cannot lie.
You thirsty bitch.
In the arms of the angel.
And Trevor, don't think I didn't hear
Problematic gay alert.
I poured one out for Joanne just in case.
you. All right. Now a silly one. Now that we're done with genocide, I want to talk about the shuttles. You all know I have this gripe. Every time there is something that the ship can't get to, they just forget that there are shuttles. Every time the transporters go down, they forget that there are shuttles. Every time the sensor array isn't working, they forget that there are shuttles. And I want to know why. My quintessential example is, of course, Final Mission, where Wesley and Picard go missing with that douchebag, tiny little shuttle captain. They're like, we can't possibly help. We have to drag this barge away from this other planet. We have shuttles. Send the shuttles. Why don't they send the shuttles? Somebody tell me why they don't send the shuttles.
Plot.
Am I crazy?
You're crazy. So I'm going to be the apologist tonight, right?
Ooh.
So they don't send the shuttles because you can only send like 2 or 3 people. You can't get the collective power and wisdom and strength of the ship. They don't have all the tools. And if one shuttle went down, why wouldn't another go?
Hmm.
You're just going to be picking them off 2 by 2? That's cruel.
Yeah, what's wrong with you, Stan?
I'm just trying to be efficient.
I will say I have thought about this, and I've always considered that like there's more about the starship itself than we
Mhm.
realize. Like there's like a shuttle's great, yeah. I'm run down to a planet. I'm doing X. I'm doing Y. Like yes, for small stuff like that. But I've always had this like thought like maybe shuttles are much more dangerous than like
Yeah.
there's something like with a that ties into the sensor system of the main mothership and like something happens, and that's why they don't tend to do it unless it's a straight point A to point B, like hey, I am setting a course and we're going type of thing. But that's
It does seem, I mean, it's literally one room, like with the exception of runabouts, which were called out in the chat by, I don't remember who said it, looking
Aaron.
really fast. Aaron said it.
DK.
With the exception of runabouts, like it's a little compartment and you're sticking people in it and rocketing them off at warp, hoping they can solve a problem. It does seem, but like scouring a star system looking for another downed shuttle seems like it wouldn't be that inherently dangerous. Though in that particular episode, not to like beat that episode to death, but in Final Mission, do they know where, like which star system the shuttle disappeared in?
I think that's part of the plot, is that like they're trying
Okay.
to find it from like the get-go, like from
Mhm.
So
square
like
zero.
Enterprise could search for it faster, but like sending a bunch of little shuttles would not necessarily
Yeah,
be
probably
safe or
not help
efficient.
much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll allow it.
Well, this just
Yeah.
this to me is a further example of Starfleet incompetence, but I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
It's not Starfleet at its finest. Like it's definitely there are tons of opportunities, including the ship's lost power. Well, have the shuttles.
Yeah.
The number of times that happens, like all of like my join our Patreon if you would like to watch us review the episode. My comfort episode disaster. That shuttles and communicators suddenly apparently just don't exist on the ship and could have been used 1,000 times to fix all the problems. Or the number of times somebody could just put on a suit and leave the ship and enter through another door, like all sorts of anyway, it's a problem.
Production budgets need to catch up with our imagination, damn it.
And we're putting that in the writers' decisions versus captain's decisions in terms of reasonable decisions.
I think that's what I approached this topic as in character, like in universe. I wasn't really looking at, because I have a lot of other questionable writers' choices. A lot of them.
The story they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the shuttles?
Naming conventions seem seem problematic.
Because it's all Earth.
Mm.
It's only Earth rivers. The Orinoco, the Rio Grande. What about the Fikendufer?
Yeah, what about it?
Right? The longest and most treacherous river on Andor.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
I made that up.
All right. I was just noting it for future reference, but fine, now I'll purge it. But it seems like the naming convention of shuttles only works when you're on the ship that the show is about.
Yeah.
Because you would run out of famous scientists, famous this, famous that. And so that they're always names that we know from Earth, to Matt's point, is weird.
Or maybe that's how they subsect it, because it's like this ship, it's only scientists from Earth. This base is only rivers from Earth. this base is only rivers on Kronos. This one, like,
Mm.
maybe that's to like give more.
It is why I appreciated, and I think I called this out back during Picard season 1, the Zheng-He, like even though there was a fleet of the exact same ship, the Ibn Majid, Rios's old ship, was of the same class, and they were all named for explorers of not frequently represented either communities or of nationalities, people that were just not, that were famous explorers but were never really acknowledged in Western history. That was random. Sorry.
Yeah. It reminds me of one of the gripes I've talked about with Deep Space Nine. Why is Starfleet allowed to name it? B, like, why are they calling it Deep Space Nine? Hey, this station that's parked above your planet, we're gonna call it Backwater 9. And the fucking the rivers, like, why not name the runabouts after Bajoran rivers? Make up some fake shit and do some world building. Or the Kai.
Or past Kais,
Kai,
like something
the Kai,
that
the Vedic. Or actual people. Oh yeah, wouldn't it have been lovely if the first replacement was named the Opaka? Oh,
yes.
That
Also,
was fantastic.
Great world building for DS9, because we, like, every once in a while we would get like a random the name of a province or the name of a city on Bajor, but we never really got a lot of history unless a character popped out of the wormhole, which did randomly happen. But let's see. My guess is, sorry, just looking at Aaron. My guess is Deep Space Nine is a legacy naming convention from early in the Federation. 1,000% agreed. But very Bashir in the Emissary versus
It's insensitive.
just calling it Starbase 800 or something.
I also love in beta canon, there was a book in which the station is destroyed and they rebuild it with Federation materials, but they make it look like
yes,
a really janky version of it. And I'm like,
Awful.
you're putting this Cardassian fascist eyesore in Starfleet materials rather than a Bajoran design. What are we doing?
And okay,
Or give them a mushroom.
No, here's choices. A, give them a mushroom. B, the entire so I don't know if anybody out there that's listening or watching has seen the design that Stan's talking about.
I'm pulling it up.
Basically it connects all of the pylons at the top and bottom. The pylons were supposed to be disconnected so you could dock there. You've defeated the point of that entire structural element. Jadzia doesn't like it. She gets really upset about this. We did say more dog content.
we did.
Here it is.
It's so dumb. I hate that so much. I hate it. I hate it, babies.
Well, the good news is it's not canon.
It can't hurt you.
It's not canon. It can't hurt you. We've seen it. We've seen the real Deep Space Nine in canon more recently.
Joanne, did you have any thoughts on Deep Space Nine 2? And beta canon.
No, I was gonna say something inappropriate about Deep and Nine, but I'll let it go.
Yeah.
But no.
I'm not letting it go. I would like to talk more about Deep and Nine.
Oh.
That'll be my next choice.
I mean, deep and wide. Am I right? Am I right? No.
You thirsty bitch.
In the arms of the angel.
Maybe that's why they named it Deep. No.
Wait, what came first? Naming a Deep Space Nine or assigning Cisco?
Girl.
Problematic gay alert.
Can you imagine that conversation? It's like,
Also,
all
the
right.
answer to that was neither. It was Cassidy Yates.
Yeah, like, all right.
It was
We have a couple of people in mind for this.
just get the button ready. It was originally going to be Deep Space Six, and then they assigned Cisco and had
Problematic gay alert.
So sorry, everybody.
Barkley was
The
actually
commander
on
that we
that.
were going to send to you is no longer available. So I know you were getting the nameplates for the station ready. Can you change it from Deep Space 6 to Deep Space 9? Oh, by the way, Commander Cisco is on his way. Unrelated. Related.
Originally, I think the Barkley was considered for it, but they changed it because they didn't want to put a decimal point in the beginning of it.
Eggplant combo, Benji.
Oh,
Getting bonus points
Oh.
for not feeling well.
oh. Goodness. All right. Let's talk about a different decision in Trek. I put a few on the table. Does anybody have, Joanne, did you have a random captain's decision that you wanted to discuss for the Admiralty?
Mine wasn't the captains, I guess, or no, it was Kai, like
Mm,
intervening. Kai Wynn
yes.
intervening with the reckoning. I always want to go religious. And like, why didn't she lose her kindness or whatever you call it? Like, why that, like, she should have been defrocked. Like, you, the religious leader of this organization, stopped, or this civilization stopped the opportunity for you to be delivered from, like, your eternal enemy. And everybody's just like, okay, come on, what we eating for lunch? What?
Mhm.
Absolutely true. The way she operates in general, terrifying.
Mhm. The Cisco had faith.
The Cisco did have
He was
faith.
gonna let his son die, possibly. And she's just like, no, somebody has to like me best, and stop that with no ramifications. I mean, I guess she ultimately got one, but no immediate sociological human resource type violations. Like, she shouldn't have had a hat anymore.
Yes. Kai Wynn, we are very disappointed in you. You're going to keep the title and the residence, but we are taking your hat. We are taking the hat. First strike. One more, and you're out.
I have one thing to say about the reckoning. Sirach Lofton.
I knew that.
Push the button.
Hey, yes, with the glowy eyes and the
Girl.
ooh.
Sirach, you like a hurricane.
Problematic gay alert.
Oh. Yes. Yeah, Kai Wynn could be okay, we're no longer admirals, we're the Vedic Assembly. Girls, the Kai is doing some shit again. What she did to Bareil, what she did to Shakar, the Reckoning. They let her get away with a lot.
She got away with a lot.
Yeah, but I campaigned for her, and she promised that she was going to bring crops to my district. So I think she's okay. I'm going to vote with her.
With a reclamator, she's going to steal from Shakar.
She's going to steal.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
She shouldn't have had her dress and hat. they needed to take them.
Mhm.
No hat for you.
No soup for you.
I like Chris's question in the chat.
I do too, because it leads me to an episode where I have issues with both Troy and a captain's decision.
An episode? What about
yes.
Nemesis?
So for the audio audience, from Chris, here's a question for everyone. We have brought up several times on the 7th rule about Troy not being used in situations where she should have. So, yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's start with the first episode of TNG that wasn't the pilot, when we put her in the gray jumper. Homegirl should have stayed in her uniform the entire time. The number of times she was they didn't need to write themselves in a corner. They just needed to write better. The number of times she could have been useful, and they were just like, oh no, she'll read everyone's mind. Quick, get rid of her. She didn't read people's minds. Like, she literally just read people's emotional states. There was no reason to write her out. I will never forgive the bonding when Picard is sharing with Jeremy Astor that his mother has been killed, and this 10-year-old boy is very stoic, which, if that's what Gene thinks the 24th century is going to be, that's fine. But the fact that Deanna didn't wince, grab a chair, show some sort of, like, suddenly this boy's emotions are overwhelming her for a moment. And the bonding is not the only example. The number of times that should have happened to her, because there was no reason for her to have her guard up necessarily, but then someone feels something extreme and she should receive that information, and that it didn't happen, is just a crime against half betazoids.
Yeah. I have two gripes. One, production, very similar. I agree. They could have given her a lot more with exactly that, like, at least let her react to things, and not just when she had to ham it up and look like she was having an orgasm for the alien presence of the week, or future Picard, or whatever that weird thing was in season 1, I think. And then 2, and I've said this before, she, in the books at least, and a little bit in the show, that they could have done a lot more, is not just had her be therapist counselor, but like counselor to the captain in a diplomatic sense. There was a huge opportunity there. Like the last outpost, when I was on Jack Tracy's podcast, my retconning of that was to make it a Troy episode, because she's the one who says, in all of this hubbub, y'all are ignoring the planet below and focusing just on this Ferengi ship. She was the one who's like, look that way. And I think every single person, herself included, needed to speak to a therapist, because the number of times in Trek something was clearly wrong, they were about to pass out. No, I'm fine. I'm just going to go to my quarters. Like, girl, you do not just randomly start to pass out. You need to go to sick bay. They should have made these people make them go to sick bay. That's my gripe.
Also, they literally state repeatedly, verbally and on screen, that she went to the academy. She also went to the University of Beta Z, which is where she studied psychology. So the only reason she went to the academy was to be a diplomat and an officer in Starfleet. She didn't have to go to the academy to be a therapist, because she already had that degree. So why are we not using her in that function? It never made sense. It makes total sense that she would have the third seat. It doesn't, the way they write the character and the episodes. So every time people are anti-Troy, which I am not, Troy boy, every time people are anti-Troy, I get annoyed at the actors, or the writers, not the actors. I get annoyed at the actors. I get annoyed at the writers for putting her in that position, because she was very much supposed to be there and should have been there. They just should have written her better.
Joanne, do you want to be a contrarian about this one? I just want to make sure I'm giving you the opportunity.
I mean, I can be because I'm like, when did what was Chris mentioned something about Drumhead and the whole having a beta set, like, and she was like, "You got a beta set," and he was like, "Well, maybe I need to rethink that." So
Mm.
maybe on some level he did think that. Plus, I'm also like, I low key don't think she was a great therapist, but I agree with Benji. She was a great diplomat, right? Um, so maybe Picard was also like, you're really not that good. But
Join us next week when Joanne and I go toe to toe on Troy, good therapist, bad therapist.
she was okay. She
Mm.
wasn't horrible.
She's all right.
But
That episode where she loses her abilities, though, that one, oof. That redhead is rough, and Troy is rough.
that one is hard too. But I did like the call out. It's just like, well, you're trained. Was that the one that were like, but you're a psychologist. You still need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Go do your job. Yeah.
To do your job.
Mhm.
And so the
You
fact
had one
again,
job.
you got one job, girl. So again, I might lean on that. If my manager has to remind me, like, maybe, you don't have, you need to do this. This is what I need to put you on task. If he's always redirecting her, maybe he's hesitant sometimes because she's
In the
distracted.
unlikely event that Joanne lost her powers, her boss would not need to tell her what her job was.
Would not. Let's be clear on that.
Chris, you did spark a debate, and that's what this is all about. So thank you.
I think
the
she was
writers
just trying
didn't
to prove herself, but that's just me.
You're right though, Chris. The writers didn't do her justice until Picard. I feel like, despite not being used as much as she could have been in Picard 3, I do think they corrected a lot of things.
Mm. I will provide a friendly amendment to that and just say second half of Picard 3, the flashback notwithstanding.
Yeah.
The flashback didn't. The only reason the flashback bothered me is that was the only flashback we got.
Yeah. And
it was scene by itself. The Nagy wife scene is problematic only because it's the only scene we get of her in that time period. If there had been some other story for her in that time, or she just wasn't included in that time, like that would have been fine. But like, it's problematic because it's the only thing you saw of her.
Right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Troy, friend or foe?
It's a crime that they never mentioned the actress that played her mother's passing by acknowledging the character of her mother passing.
Yeah,
that would have been great in
Nepenthe. Here's a contrarian opinion on that. I'm glad they didn't say that Mother Troy died, because then we don't know if she's still like out there and doing, like, we don't know how long they live, really.
It's a wonderful, like, it's a very, like, Babylon 5 acknowledged actors who passed by saying their characters had gone to a particular place that was sort of like an acknowledgement that they had passed, but the character was still alive. It's fine. Like, why couldn't Luoxana have I just think it would have been, because Luoxana wasn't, Majel didn't only play Luoxana. Like, she was so significant. I think it would have been really cool to. And where is her half sibling? No one knows.
Also that.
There's a choice to never bring that up.
Yeah. He's somewhere doing something.
I think similar to this topic, we should at some point talk about plot threads that need to be picked up. That is a big one. Conspiracy bugs is another. I hope we get more of the Borg. You're just kidding. Plenty of the Borg. Any final thoughts on Deanna Troy?
She should have sensed Picard approaching the cabin in Nepenthe.
Yes. I love that moment when she sensed something was wrong with him. Having her sense his presence sooner would have been great too.
It would have been like, in the blocking would not have changed. Like, she would have walked out on the porch, like gone to like pot a plant or whatever the frick she was doing, and then just sort of stopped and hesitated for a moment, and then they come out from behind the bushes, which is
Why am
a
I
weird entrance. But
why am I sensing a Dickens novel?
I suddenly smell emotional mildew.
Papa, what? Papa, what?
is that horrible Bordeaux?
Is that sour mash?
I want to go back in time. I want to go to the.
No, you're not allowed. Stan, we've talked about this. You're
Let
not allowed
me
to do
do
it. You
it.
can't.
I want to go to the
Fine.
23rd century.
You get one pass.
Thank you. And talk about
Welcome.
time travel. Obviously, again, this is an in-universe conversation. We know why the spore drive did not come up in TNG, Deep Space Nine, and certainly Voyager. There is a
Because
hilarious
because fandom is fragile.
yes.
Sorry, I went there.
Fandom is fragile. And from day one, I knew that, okay, they're obviously going to explain why this doesn't work, whatever. Is the explanation enough? Now, again, this is going to be an in-universe discussion. There is a hilarious video on YouTube. It's Janeway's end of the pilot speech about, we're going to get home. And then Voyager spins and Spore drives home immediately. So we're the Admiralty. This shit just went down with Discovery and Control. We know that there is a huge concern with this type of AI, the Spore data, what happened with, or the Sphere data, what happened with Discovery. So we're classifying shit. It was destroyed, whatever. Sure. But then I also just imagine the second part of that meeting is like, and we're going to shutter the Spore drive. And then like nobody was like, oh, well, hang on. Now just hang on a second, because this is instantaneous travel. So I know we have some navigator issues. And listen, I don't want to be called a Khan Noonien Singh apologist, but I think we're very broad. We're very broad with our genetics rules here. Stamets is fine, right? Like, we know he's off in the future. He's fine. I mean, I'll volunteer. Let me be a navigator. Are we really going to shutter the Spore drive because somebody has to get a little bit of tardigrade DNA in them? Are we really going to stop looking for those creatures, not to abuse them, but to just get a little juicy juice for me to be able to go wherever? Am I the devil? Am I devil's advocate here? Am I the only one who thinks it's insane to shutter the Spore drive?
I don't think it's insane to shutter the Spore. I don't think it's insane to think it's insane to shutter the Spore drive. Does that make sense? But I don't think it's insane to classify it, because there are plenty of species out there who would not give two hoots about merging their DNA with a tardigrade and torturing the tardigrade and using
100%.
it to, and which would be terrible. And I'm not convinced that some Starfleet intelligence operative wasn't assigned to like go attempt to make contact with tardigrades and ask them for their DNA, and the tardigrades were like, go to warp. Like, so who knows? But also the eyewitness accounts of Spore drive. Yes, Jake, you're correct. There were a lot of people that saw it happen.
People saw that.
So many people. Joel.
So
Joel in the comments.
Yeah.
The tardy juicy juice must flow. That's disturbing. But also poignant and perhaps worthy of a t-shirt as well. Stan, get on that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we ever figure out, wasn't it mentioned that when they used the, and I gotta be honest, we all know I have not gone back to rewatch this in depth. Wasn't it mentioned that like going and using the Spore drive was also damaging this other in-between space with that species that was her dead friend?
Oh, right.
That's why I would
Oh,
have said,
yeah.
like, oh, using this technology is damaging these life forms. I forget how we got around that. I feel like at the end of it, we figured some
He
way.
figured it. Stamets figures it out in the 32nd century.
Yeah.
They mentioned in the 4th season when he's bitching about Tarka not calling him for notes. Giuseppe, I even told him how to not harm the Giuseppe. Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say that I think it was
It always just sticks with me.
it was a huge writing mistake to suggest that you can't spore jump, because they contradicted themselves with the previous dialogue, that you can't spore jump out of the galaxy,
Yeah.
because that would have given 32nd century, like, Disco ends with the resolution of the progenitor tech crisis, and then Discovery is sent on an exploration mission outside the galaxy. Like, that would have been really, really cool.
Yes.
But instead, we have some weird restriction because of a field that doesn't exist yet. Anyway.
I think they shuttered it because people are terrible. Because the only time you see, like, the Guardian of Forever is instant jump thing. The Iconians have a Is it the
Yeah.
Iconians have
The
an
Iconians have the
instant
gateways.
jump thing? But I think it's the same logic of why we're not ready for the progenitor tech, because we'll abuse it. And, Starfleet can be like, we're scientists and explorers all we want. Some fucking Badmiral will go, power crazy and just start, like the Cardassian guy who was running around killing folk on a Sovereign class. You give him, a tardigrade instant jump, there would be no more fucking Cardassians because he had a mental break. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, people are terrible.
I'm also going to let
And
it.
our mind is not developed enough to be responsible and not be absolutely corrupted by that level of power.
That does seem like a very Starfleet thing to do. Like, it's just very like, you know what? We proved that we could do it. We realized that there were some issues. But you know what? This entire ship has been too much of a problem to us, so we're going to scrap all of it. Like, this is morally ambiguous. We don't really know how much that spore drive played into all the absolute shenanery that happens to the USS Discovery constantly. So let's just shutter this entire problem and see if maybe we can just pretend it never happened.
Quick question for the audience. Of the admirals here, which one do you think is the badmiral that would be doing these kind of shenanigans? And why is it me?
And what it's who? Okay, better question, audience. Who isn't the badmiral that would?
I feel like all of us, except for Joanne, could probably.
What are you talking? Joanne will be the first one to be like, "Oh, I can cut a corner and I can get it, but I can bring Cisco back. How? Okay."
Joanne was happy to hang out with Jennifer Sisko because she did.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
In fairness, my first thought did go to Joanne, but then I was like, I don't know. Stan might be a little shady too.
Listen, I would want to do things for good. At least I would think, and then be wrong. Joanne is taking a fleet of ships into that wormhole and demanding the emissary back.
Not just back.
Give him to me.
Me personally.
You bring him out, and you make him forget that other lady.
Delete the wife.
Oh, yeah, she would be
lady.
deleted. She would be deleted. Yeah.
All the other ladies.
And their daughter.
Oh.
Or did they say it?
Was it a girl?
She was definitely
In the
pregnant,
books.
and in the books they have a daughter, but I don't think in the finale they said.
I don't care.
No. Well, they said she's pregnant. Yeah.
I don't care.
Another question from Chris in the comments
I like this one.
for the group. How is it that Starfleet never developed transwarp drive by the 32nd century? I'm just going to go out and say that what was the freaking drive that they named in the
I hate it. The
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder that's just
pathway.
or pathway drive that's just it's warped but it's green. I'm gonna say it's faster than transwarp.
Yeah.
So, and they did in the very, very beginning. They mentioned when she runs into Book, he mentioned something about like, do you have any benthen crystals
Yeah.
to make a quantum slipstream drive work? And he mentions, I know, and I should go back and rewatch this one because he mentions that the transwarp system is off. Like the transwarp grid hasn't been functional for years. Like there is a mention of the transwarp, or basically that like people have used it and it's damaged and
As
There
I
was some
recall, in season 3, the Benamite, you're right, Benamite crystals are exceptionally rare, and that's what makes quantum slipstream work. The transwarp corridors are a fucking mess. She and Book use one,
Well, they use those
and they dodge a bunch of debris in it.
those weren't the transwarp corridors. Those were the what was his name? A courier network. It was the courier.
Oh,
I
just assumed that was a transwarp corridor as well.
Which
Also, Benji's reply is salamanders.
Also that. There's also I don't know if this was someone's headcanon, if it's in a book or a YouTube channel, but I know some people have theorized that transwarp meant something different with the Excelsior as an experimental ship for just a faster warp drive, and the warp factor, whatever, like the scale just changed based on
what if the scale changed after, like, it didn't work on the Excelsior, but it eventually worked, and that's why the scale changed?
Yeah, I think that's the theory.
I thought that. I mean, that's basically. I guess that's anybody that I've talked to. The headcanon.
That's the prevailing
admittedly.
Yeah,
Like is that like it was the great experiment, and it really didn't fail. I mean, it worked, and that's why the Enterprise B was launched, and then it launched this new fleet of ships because now it's not a great experiment. It did actually because it never says that the great experiment didn't work.
Right.
It's just Scotty sabotaged it.
Yeah.
Like that's the only time we don't see the transwarp drive work is when he did, because I mean obviously it worked in the Enterprise B. So.
Yeah, and at the time of Star Trek 3, they weren't thinking transwarp like a Borg transwarp corridor.
Are you suggesting that Scotty flung his wooden shoes called Sabot into the warp? Hence the word sabotage.
Valeris. Yeah.
I love her.
It's like freeway and highway have technical distinctions, but they're basically the same thing. Transwarp drive, a faster warp drive, transwarp corridor. But yeah, I hate the Pathfinder drive. They hyped it up like it was going to be such a cool fucking thing. I was really hoping it was going to be a continuation of the portal tech.
Yeah.
We saw there's a connection in Prodigy. We saw some cool shit in Picard. And we saw that the Vulcans were the Navarans were experimenting with some kind of tunnel drive.
It'll be interesting to see what Starfleet Academy does.
Yes.
Because we are going to revisit the 32nd century, so we'll have more to come.
But you said it right. It's warp drive, but it's green, and yeah. And in theory, it doesn't rely on dilithium crystals because that was the whole thing. Whatever.
We did get a text.
Wait, did we ever finish Benji? We gave him his either.
Did we finish Benji?
Class,
that's harsh. What?
I've been trying.
Or the Defiant.
Oh, he called out.
Gay alert.
He did in the chat. Did we call him out on actual? Because we never.
I don't think we did call it out. He chose DS9, replacing the Defiant with an Oberth class,
which would be fucking hilarious to see that shit.
1,000%.
Can you imagine an Oberth trying to look that threatening against a Dominion warship?
But I can see Starfleet being like, "Oh, Deep Space Nine, yeah, give him an Oberth, whatever."
Wasn't it supposed to be Deep Space 6?
No, that Commander Sisko's in charge. Oh, got it.
Yeah, no, enough said. Enough said.
He gets his Oberth and he's like, "Excuse me, I was supposed to get the Defiant." It's like, yeah, but listen. Any other decisions in Trek that we want to discuss?
I do want to ask, because allegedly, according to text message, Ken he wasn't able to join us because he's traveling home, but he's watching us from 30,000 feet. So, Ken, your question was, and commenters feel free to sound off. Ken, do you want to live in an alternate universe where Shatner was never born, or the character of Kirk was never conceived of?
I'm betting
So-
he picks.
That's an easy one for me.
Yeah, I'm betting he picks Shatner was never born because he would still rather have somebody else play Kirk.
Tune in next week to find out. Look, I'm doing a two-parter. So
But
unlike
everybody
me.
can only watch the second part.
Dun dun dun.
Only I can only watch the
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Next week on the Medium Place.
Ken
Any
started with, well, actually,
Does that count?
yes, we gotta anytime we can drag Ken, I'm here for it. We miss you, buddy. Any
We love
other random decisions in Trek? We're at the hour mark. We're gonna land the ship eventually, but we don't have to yet.
Can I channel Krista for a second and
Please.
rip Jean-Luc a new one for a decision that he made?
Yes,
Um,
always.
Simply returning Jeremiah Rosa to the people that kidnapped him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best call. Not
Well, he's
suggesting
fully assimilated.
that he shouldn't have any sort of say or choice or any, but like that episode was tidily wrapped up in 42 or 46 minutes, however many commercials there were back then. With, we'll just send him back to the people that kidnapped him. It's fine.
Mhm.
And
We'll
there was
just send
no
Picard back to the Borg. No big deal.
there was no like, well, let's at least you and Captain whatever his name was, the Enterprise will escort that ship to Earth, where or to whatever starbase his grandmother was on, to meet his human family. That
Yeah.
there was no attempt at like, or he at least had her phone number. I don't know. Like there was no attempt to connect him with the family that he had been stolen from, other than a recorded message. And I'm like, this isn't like a difficult adoption story. This isn't like the episode in DS9 Cardassians where it's like, well, does the young man go back to the Cardassian family he was stolen from, or does he stay with the Bajorans who adopted him? It's not that complicated. He was kidnapped
Yeah.
from a human family, and even though he had assimilated, there was no attempt to reconnect him because he was like, I'm a stab Captain Picard. Well, like, okay, let's include you in the decision making. Let's let you meet your family. Let's keep communication. You want to go live with them? Cool. But here's grandma, and she's going to talk to you from time to time, or at least try to. None of that happened. Picard was just like, all right, you tried to stab me. You should go back to the people that kidnapped you. Is nutso.
However, that
Joanne?
was a very formatively sexual episode for me. So
For
Yeah.
every homosexual.
That humming.
it was.
Joanne, did you want to take this opportunity to support kidnapping?
even I am not that contrary. Although I do think, his agency to return, but I was like, but there's no middle ground, like
Yeah.
joint
Yeah.
custody, like you said, let them see the grandma, bring the grandma to there. Although they strike me as a planet that like would kill up some women, but there's some middle ground there. But but even I am not that contrary.
In defense of the Temerians, you're looking forward to killing your own roommate. So
Yeah, but that roommate was getting in between her and Good Dick, and that I have to support that.
I mean,
fair.
I
Fair. Death to get to dick. It's a different situation. Chris,
Yeah.
you just said you had in the comments you thought of a questionable decision. We will wait with bated breath. Hopefully you're a fast typer.
Yes, please. Did anybody else on the panel have one that they wanted to chat about in the meantime?
Matt, are you about to sneeze or share a great idea?
No, I thought I had one. I really thought I had one there for a second.
I
Oh, I do. There it was. It came back. I'm sorry.
Well, let it out,
Stan.
girl. Don't
Yeah.
hold it in.
Janeway's decision to delete the doctor's memory when he was having that like nervous breakdown and then powering through it, I still think it's questionable, because like that was like, Janeway, you did a lot, but all you had to do was tell him that like there was so many questionable decisions in that episode, and this is one that I just watched a couple weeks ago. And, like, all she had to say, like, it's a computer that's trying to, I guess, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? You are trained to prioritize the most necessary crew member. And I hate to be a dick. Like, there was a couple lines where she was down on deck 15. Harry worked on the bridge. Like, that should have just, like, Janeway could have just explained, like, doesn't matter that he was your friend, whether you thought it or not, like, you knew he was more important to this crew. Just like I did this the first time because you are so important to this crew. Like,
also, he doesn't encounter the same sort of situation when he slams the door shut in a two-parter that I can't stand in Year of Hell, when he just allows crewmen to die, because if he doesn't, the entire ship blows up.
Well, admittedly, that was after he went through this whole personal, exploratory thing. So maybe that's what made him grow and be able to become a murderer.
It does open up a can of worms for me, though, which is that they never wrote an explanation for why the Doctor becomes sentient.
Yeah.
Just, I think the sheer being online so much, I guess. And so like, I also questions like how ethical is this to use EMHs?
But like, I've left electronic devices on for longer than I should have. They didn't suddenly evolve. Like,
but no, that's my thing is like, so you found out that you're using this program, but that has the potential to become sentient every time you turn it on. Now that you've proven it with one, it's any of them that you turn on. But as long as we shut them down quick enough, we don't have to treat them like a person. Like, it seems ethically questionable.
Indeed.
Speaking of ethically questionable,
there it is.
I was responding to Norman's point. We haven't talked about it in this episode, but we have talked about it before. I think there's uniformity in this thought that Janeway made the right call with Tuvix. But funny enough, I just wrote in the chat, as the Salon host, the owner of the account, she did the right thing with Tuvix, zero question about it. And then I get this notification, YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. So YouTube is a Tuvix abolitionist. Respect the opinion, but fully disagree. She made the right call, but and we can talk about Tuvix a little bit more, but in the same vein that Matt was talking about with the Doctor, I also had one issue with the way that she handled B'Elanna's disagreement with using the Cardassian hologram when she got that bug attached to her. I hated the resolution of it when it was like Janeway was just like, hope this smoke helps, bye, when she very easily could have had a conversation, and it didn't feel like Janeway. To me, the conversation could have gone like, B'Elanna, I understand. I think I understand why you felt the way that you felt. You are too critical to this ship and to getting everyone home. You are our chief engineer. And I had to make that call knowing it was against your wishes. And I hope we can move past that. Something there. But she was very dismissive of B'Elanna's feelings about it. And I think there could have been a better conversation that would have been great with the two actresses. And I know you're chomping at the bit to fix it for me, Trevor, but I'm right.
No, I'm actually going to point out it's like even worse. Like there are two things wrong with that conversation, and I would take it a step further. Not you are the chief engineer and you are too critical to this crew getting home. It is, I am the captain of this vessel and I am responsible for the lives of every single crew member. If I decide you live, you live. Second, I'm not going to mock your religion by suggesting that smoke ward off demons
Yeah.
in a way that is sarcastic and kind of sharp and sort of like I literally walked into your home on this ship
Mhm.
and mocked your belief.
Mocked you.
Joanne,
Like-
do you want to defend mocking faith?
Do you want to? Yeah.
I don't
Specifically
even
walking
know
into
this
other people's
episode.
homes and
Like,
mocking their faith.
my Voyager knowledge is almost like I didn't watch the show, but I did.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I don't even know what episode y'all are talking about.
Tune in
But
a few months
Janeway was
for
right.
Voyager
Yes.
onwards.
So Chris's question: what was Seven of Nine's parents thinking chasing the Borg with her on board, especially when they knew what could happen if they were caught? Another great example of an in-universe, because like obviously production requires it, but yeah, that's insane.
Oh, I have so many. I really want to. I have always fully believed the Hansons are like that overly privileged. We've never experienced any hardship in our lives.
Yes.
We're very intelligent. We are so out of touch with reality. We don't even understand what's going on because we are privileged, white Federation citizens, and we can go anywhere and do anything we want because we are of the right side of everything. And that's why they fucking did it, because they thought that, like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. We've always been
we're
fine. Starfleet's protected us. We're good. Like,
We're just anthropologists who kidnap our subjects. It's all good. We're just going to beam them onto our ship while they're asleep. They won't know. It's fine. They're sentient beings, but we're going to kidnap them.
just like the
Inject them with things, pull things out of them, and beam them back. It's fine. Everything's fine. Fuck the Hanson.
Yeah, they're not good people.
T-shirt.
Yes. All right, y'all. I think that concludes our Admiralty review of some interesting decisions that our captains and people have made. Trevor,
Also, if you're new to our show, we love Star Trek.
we lovingly rip it apart.
We do that to each other too. That's how you
Yes.
know it's love.
Yes.
Fair point.
Um,
You're not wrong.
Joanne, do you want to disagree? I just had to do the bit one more time.
I fucking hate you all now.
Trevor, how about you give us the tallies of the evening?
I would love to. There were okay, so for the subject matter, these numbers don't make sense, but I'm super proud of us. There were 6 problematic alerts.
Good job, everyone.
At least half of them involving the cock of a Cisco. So nice job, everyone.
Great job, everyone.
There were 2 problematic ally alerts.
Thank
And
you,
Joanne flying solo, like, right? There was 1 tosser alert and 1 cannon alert and 1 Kenwell actually in absentia. 500 bonus points to Joel for always being punctual. Girl, we saw you in the comments like 2 minutes early.
Wait,
6,900 bonus points to Joanne for owning Big Ben's big fleet. Yep, I went there. An additional 15 bonus points to Joanne for reminding us that people suck. Deep Space Nine bonus points to Benji for Gumbo Mumbo Jumbo. 3,000 bonus points to Chris in the comments for sparking Troy Boy chatter.
Troy?
Troy Boy. 15,000 bonus points to Matt for shenanery. Don't think I didn't notice. You're coining a new term. And 99 bonus points to Stan for finally nailing a segue. That brings your total to -1.
Wait, no.
You were -100 last week.
I will.
I would like to propose
there's
an
a
addendum.
Fine.
Because I feel like there's a good call out that needs to be had. I would like to give
Call it.
500,000 bonus points to Joel for also not only keeping our cards, but willing to pass them out at STSF too many acronyms.
And that's more than Matt's willing to do. So yes, thank you, Joel. Oh,
So if you did run into Matt during STLV last year, yes, those were business cards in his pocket.
yes.
And there was 2 of them that came out.
And he was happy to see you. Yes. Y'all, this has been delightful as always. We do love Star Trek and we love debating it like the nerds that we are. Next week, super excited. It's going to be a double header week. So next Thursday, we are going to be discussing Section 31, The Entity, and what we have seen of it thus far from Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Discovery, the lore as it is. I believe there's some beta canon stuff. Yes, I've read some books with some Section 31 stuff that I'll be sure to reference. So we'll be talking about Section 31 next Thursday at our usual time, 6:30 p.m. And then next Friday, we will have a special salon to review Star Trek Section 31, the new streaming movie that will be debuting next Friday, starring, of course, her most royal, I used to remember it back when Discovery was on, but Her Royal Majesty, Regina Andor, Dominus of Kronos, etc., Philippa Georgiou, Michelle Yeoh. Super excited to see it, to talk about it. And as always, I will advocate any Star Trek we get is great Star Trek. Watch. The way to get more Star Trek, because I know I'm speaking to the contrarians. I know that expanding this franchise in this way is not everyone's jam. But if everybody who has a Paramount Plus account watches this movie, they are going to give us more Star Trek content.
Mm-hmm.
They might do more in that story. You might like it more than you might think. I'm super jazzed about it because I think it's an interesting. I like when they expand the franchise and they do things differently. But also, a streaming movie doing well means we will get more streaming movies. It doesn't necessarily mean sequel. It could mean a Star Trek Legacy movie that could be a backdoor pilot. It could mean a different movie altogether. Watching the Star Trek we get in the meantime gets us even more Star Trek that may be more your jam than this, or maybe this is going to be your jam and you didn't know, or maybe you're like me, you're super excited about it. So join us next week to talk about it. And before we do close things up, I know Trevor is chomping at the bit.
Oh,
so Trevor, please.
I have 2 urgent updates. The first one, it is Her Most Imperial Majesty, Mother of the Fatherland, Overlord of Vulcan, Dominus of Kronos, Regina Andor, Philippa Georgiou, Augustus Leopolis Centaurus. And last but not least, Ken killed Shatner.
Oh,
I got the text.
Important update indeed. Indeed, Kirk. Shatner is not the issue. It's the role of Kirk. Yep.
it's true.
Actually, Ken, you're correct. And with that, I hope everybody joins us next week. Like and subscribe. Live long and prosper.
All hands abandon ship. Proceed to the nearest evacuation zone immediately.